Welcome to Gold Derby. I'm senior editor Denton Davidson here with Sky Ferreira, whose new single Leash is an original song for the film Babygirl starring Nicole Kidman. Sky, this is an exciting song. It's a great film. How were you approached to contribute to the movie?
Um, Helena, the director and the music supervisor, reached out to me while I was on tour. Well, it was actually my manager, and Helena started following me on Instagram or something. Or by film manager. I don't have a music manager at the moment. Um, and I came back from tour and I had a discussion with Megan Carrier, the music supervisor, and just kind of happened from there somehow. At first I wasn't sure if it was like a reality. I was like, who do they actually want? I went through the motions a bit. But I started the idea, but I was like, I won't really believe it until I see it, like until it's legitimately happening. Because I just assumed maybe they had a lot of people like pitching songs, that sort of thing. But yeah, I usually never get approached to like license my music, but I've never really been approached to write a song for film, so I was pretty excited about it.
Did you, when you spoke with Helena, did she give you some sort of direction and like, did she say I wanted something edgy or up tempo or what was those conversations like?
Um, Not necessarily. It's funny, like they just kind of described more of a, I don't know. I wouldn't say it was like genre based necessarily. It was more like a vibe. And it wasn't necessarily the vibe I ended up with, which was interesting. I mean, I wrote something, or I had a different idea that was much more in line and probably more conventional and obvious, which maybe would have been the smartest option for me to do for this sort of thing. But it just wasn't really clicking with me the same way. Like I thought the idea worked well and I was sending it to Lena and they liked it. But I just felt like this other thing and it just sort of happened out of nowhere, just kind of embodied the film more, like the actual sentiment behind it more. Well, sentiment, I guess, is an interesting word to use for this film.
Well, I mean, I was curious about that because when you're approached and they say we want one song for a whole film, I mean, that's a lot of pressure to come up with like a sound, like a specific sound. So I was wondering if you like how many songs actually went through your head before you landed on this, and then what comes first to you, like as a songwriter, the lyrics or a melody? Like what's easier for you?
The thing was like basically I was going by the premise before I watched the film at first and I was sort of like and basically, I just kind of like looked online like what it was about sort of, and because I was trying to have like a bit of a head start probably some subconsciously, just trying to be like okay, give my not direction of the sound because I was curious of what they wanted, obviously, but just sort of like I had a lot of time to kill on a plane for like I don't it's like 17 hours or something from Australia. So I was like kind of coming up with like lyric ideas just based off of the I think it was like photos of the dog and Nicole Kidman, which was funny because the dog ended up playing a big part later on in the songwriting, but completely different context. And it was more, even the first time I watched the film, it was more in line, I guess, with the other music that's in it, that's more like 80s, 90s. I don't know. I don't want to like it's funny, I think at first they asked me to write a power ballad, and I was like, I actually don't really know what that means
Yeah.
at this point. Like, what is a power ballad in 2024, Um, so I was coming up with something that sounded a little more, I don't know, retro, I guess was one way to say it. Um, and yeah, it just sort of escalated into something completely different. But I don't know. I don't really have like an order of how I work. You know, um, I tend to like these lyrics weirdly spilled out of me. I was surprised by it. I'm still surprised by it because I'm someone that takes a lot of time like replacing word. I'm very like particular about it. And I think it really was just having to know like there was a deadline obviously, but also I felt a responsibility to not be too on the nose,
Mm.
and not just like take a line from the film or something. I mean, I did, but I interpreted it obviously. Um, yeah, it's funny, but I don't really have an order of things, how I write a song. I don't really have a process, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Um, I feel like with this, I kind of had when came up with this other idea, it was more based off of the synth line, the bass, and I kind of just had the image in my head and what would kind of embody that last. It was the last scene in the film, but I don't want to like ruin things for people,
Yeah.
I guess.
The title Leash, what does that mean to you?
Well, in the context of the film or just to me alone, I feel like I know what it's like to feel like I'm I've been on a leash for a very long time in my life. I guess it's one way of saying it due to my situation related to it's like people are so bored of hearing this level. The people that actually have read anything about me or whatever, they're really like, yes, we get it. You were on a record label, you were trapped.
When you're writing for a film, how much are you trying to be into like Nicole's character after seeing it, and then how much of it is you for someone who's used to writing things that are so personal? How is it easier for you to write about someone else's experience?
I felt like I could relate to it in a strange way, not necessarily the affair, but kind of feeling, like I was saying, a bit trapped within yourself in some ways and being self-destructive to some extent. Hopefully not right now. That's not what I'm doing at the moment, but I've been there, and power dynamics and relationships, that sort of thing, and the imbalance constantly, it's usually one or the other, right? And sometimes I guess, feeling a bit stifled and maybe a bit bored by your life to some extent. So I related to that. So I don't know, it was pretty easy for me to just like get into that world, and I was lucky. I think it was definitely like I'll be spoiled by the situation if I or when I write for another film, because um what a film to write like a song about, I didn't have to force anything, which is kind of rare.
And it happened quickly, right? I mean, you only had what was it, like 2.5 weeks or something like that.
Yes, to mix it and master it and produce it and record it and write it and turn it in, and it was printed and going to Venice Film Festival, which I don't know, the pressure was good because it was good pressure. It's like creative pressure. It's not just like someone breathing down your neck for no reason, you know. Um I actually I work well under pressure like that. So it helps me because I tend to hyper focus on like each detail and just will keep doing it over and over and over again. Um yeah. So it was probably, I wouldn't say it's the fastest I've ever worked, but close to it in a while, which was a good thing for me to have, I think.
Well, it pushed you back out there because I mean, this is your first song to come out in a couple years. So what's it like to be back to like and to have your music out there again?
It's exciting. It's exciting. At first, it was a little daunting and overwhelming, but it's like, oh, this isn't some horrifying shadow over like looming over me, and that's kind of what it felt like before. And now it's like, oh, I can like adapt to this again. Like I was a bit worried, how am I going to go about all of this? How am I going to do this? Because it's been a long time, and to kind of have, I don't know, having the freedom to do what I want and what that actually means to me in a way, and what to do with it, really.
And when you put something out there, you're gonna get comments, and I don't always like comments, but some of the comments I read on your YouTube video, it's just the song video. There's not an actual music video yet, but some of the comments say it's been 80 years. Someone joked, and someone said this is a hit. 2025 is gonna be the year of Sky Ferreira, and one user said, OMG, I'm in tears. This is a comeback. What does it mean to have fans like yours and response like that to your music?
I mean, um it truly means so much to me because I wouldn't, it's not like, oh, I wouldn't have been able to write this song without my fans. But I wouldn't have been able to get out of the situation I was in without my fans doing something. 'Cause for so long, it was just like I literally was like the only person trying to get out of this thing for years. And it felt like I was kind of just like yelling into a void, in a way. And really, until my fans got involved and they were so proactive about it, it put the pressure on them to finally just like drop me. And it's crazy because I was on that label for, I don't know, I was on the label for 17 years almost. It's like half of my life. At that point, it was literally half of my life. And I put out one album and I've turned in, I don't know how many, countless albums, you know? So without them, I wouldn't have been able to be even be involved in a project like this because if, let's say, Megan and Helena reached out to me when I was on Capitol, they would have shut it down. They would have been like, no, absolutely not. And they probably would have had someone else on their label do it or something, you know? Um, so they really changed my life. You know, I can't, um, it's almost hard for me to put it into words, you know, and they were so creative about it and they really put the heat on them in a different way. I feel like when I was doing it, it's when I was trying to do it and when I tried to express it so many times, I feel like a lot of people weren't taking it seriously or they were thinking, oh, what did she do? Or is she being difficult? Or it's like, even if I was, it doesn't justify it, you know. Not that I don't think I was being whatever, but you know, it made me feel like I knew what I thought. I'm trying to figure out a way to say this, but it I guess in a way it made me feel more seen and understood in a situation I felt very isolated in for a really long time.
Maybe this question's too big for one person. But what is it about the music industry? Because you're not the first artist I've heard this. You're not the first one with this story. In a normal job, things don't work out. You part ways and you go your own way. But like at a music label, they will like block you from doing anything else with anyone else for years, which does no benefit to that. It's almost like just like a personal revenge. Why is the music industry like that and so unique in that way?
Um, I mean, out of my own personal experience, I guess it's the only one I can really talk about, even though it's happened to a lot of people, but it's also turned into such a thing for me. And um, I think it has something to do with the value of an artist. Like they kind of want to keep you in their pocket because they're all these people at these labels, it's like musical chairs. It's always like pretty much the same people and they're just switching seats and switching labels, you know? And everyone is in such a crisis about keeping their job and whatnot, and also the ego. And there's also a lot of people that I don't know how they ended up with their jobs, to be honest. Like they don't have the background for it, that sort of thing. Like I guess they're like schmoozers. I don't really know, you know, that sort of thing. Um, and they're not really sure what to do with it, but also I feel like honestly, it's very rare now where you know, actually there isn't artist development much anymore. You know, they just kind of want you to immediately make tons of money unless you're one of the hand-picked few where they're like, we back you and we're gonna like start this slow and like build it up. And that's just not what they do now. Now they just sort of like put this out immediately or want you to do whatever is happening in the moment because they don't really know what they're doing. And the thing is, I think if you have value, but there's something about you that bothers them or something, but they're worried that like if they drop you, you'll do better elsewhere and it'll be an issue for them. They might lose their job or something. But it's also like for me, it was like, I don't, I can't, it's to like stop me from working, to stop me from doing anything. And I've done this pretty much my whole life. I've been, so it's like 12, I guess it's not my whole life, but it feels
Sure.
like I was like I was like a child into, a child transitioned into a teenager, so for the most part, you know, at least it wasn't like I wasn't a baby in it, I wasn't like a a serial commercial kid or something, but still, it's kind of all I know. And it's not that I think I'm like, oh, I'm above having a job or something, but it's also weird when it puts you the way this industry sort of works. It's like, it's almost like you're almost considered damaged goods, or it's like a bad look to do other things to like survive. Isn't that weird? Like you might not get a job because you have a job. Like it doesn't really make sense, but that's kind of how the stuff works, unfortunately. And I think the thing is, it's kind of lawless. That's the difference with film. There is some structure to it, and music, there really isn't. And I think they're in a bit of a crisis too of because of streaming and all of it's streaming is still making their head spin, you know. Um and they're giving artists less and less. Even if you're like even the biggest artists are having a hard time like getting stuff approved and not, budget wise. I wish I could tell someone how to navigate all of it. I think the only thing I did, and I don't know if it was wise to be honest, but it's just how I did it and what felt right to me is that I wasn't willing to just give up everything for them. And that's what they expect. And they kind of want, I think because I did start when they still almost treat me and look at me like a teenager, even though I'm 32 years old. Um, they want you to know your place, like why is this person saying no to me? Or it's not even about saying no, it's really about questioning things. People really don't like it when you question them. And it's just logical, you know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't I do that? But they want you to just say yes and be so grateful for the bare minimum. It's silly.
And with writing a song for a film comes like this awards chatter and awards buzz. What would it be like if you were nominated for an Oscar for this song? What would that mean to you?
I mean, it's strange when it starts like coming into the conversation, but it's like it's funny when it was submitted, they were like, "Oh, they're submitting your song." I'm just so used to hearing things that just like don't happen that I didn't like process it for like 2.5 days. And my publisher, Auntie, who has helped me throughout all of this, like almost the way a manager would, um, while doing the song for the film and stuff, just kind of helping me so I'm not like the only person involved. She was like, "Oh, I just thought maybe you just like didn't care about that sort of thing." It just never seemed like that would be a reality for me. I Not never, but like due to the circumstances, it's pretty fucking insane, I don't have a manager. I'm not like I mean, 6 months ago, it was like, what am I going to do with my life? I was in a full crisis right before. I was like, okay, because I was done touring, and I was like, well, I can't just keep touring like the same album over and over again, and I was like, how do I even put something out by myself without having a manager, without having a massive team or something like that, or tons of money, because it costs a lot of money to do that by yourself and to do it the way that is expected from me at this point. And it's very surreal that that would even like it's I'm a bit it would be I mean it would be amazing obviously, but wow. I don't think anyone would see that coming.
Well, it's possible. And what we can see coming, though, is you said, I believe, that there will be a music video for Leash. Is that going to happen? Do you have any news about that?
Yes, I'm making the video with Grant Singer, who I've worked with a lot in the past. He's a director. He barely, I mean, he makes some videos like I think like once every few years, but he directed my music videos a long time ago because I haven't made a music video in I don't know how many years, like 10 years or something. And I'll probably, besides this is probably the most anyone has seen my face outside of like singing on stage with like the lights off and like fog machines or something. So, um, that'll be exciting. And we just kind of have, we have great chemistry work wise, but we were also, we were roommates. So we know each other very well.
Well, that's exciting. We look forward to that. Baby Girl is released December 25th, but Leash is out now, so everyone can go listen to that. Sky, congratulations on the comeback. A great song, and good luck with everything this award season.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.